It seems like 100 years ago when we first had children. My wife and I had a little girl. It was crazy cool. The nurse, taking care of them the first day or so in the hospital, fantastic. Everything catered to us. My wife was kind of working harder than I was, but it was really great. Then we had another little girl, another little girl, another little girl. We have all these kids. And it's just been one of the fun parts of life to watch them go from coming home from the hospital. I was kind of dreading that first time we brought one home. It was nuts, but we kept her alive for a couple of days, went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician, this was cool. He begins to take these measurements. He measures her weight. He measures her height. He measures, I think, if I recall, the circumference of her head. He had this little tape measure. It was crazy cool to watch this happen. And we would go 1 week and then 2 weeks and 6 weeks and 3 months. I think we had a checkup, 6 months, a year. And it kept, how tall is she? How much does she weigh? And how what's the circumference of her head? And so just this little tape measure and a set of scales did the trick. And it was incredible to watch this progress this kid was making. But here's the thing. Had we not gone to the doctor, it would really have been hard to believe that she was making progress, because even with all the kids, as we watched them through the years grow, we really didn't watch them grow. It just happened. We didn't really see it happening, but it was happening. There was a way to measure it. Progress was being made. And as I look back on that, I never remember coming home any day with any of the four of them. They all lived here 18 years and thinking, man, you grew today. You got bigger today. Didn't happen. I think it's so important for us to understand, if we're going to chase greatness, we've got to grow. And yet, here's the reality. You're not going to feel a lot of times like you're growing. You're going to be investing time, investing resources, investing your energy, effort, maybe, and yet you're going to wonder, is this really working? Am I growing? I got good news for you. Chasing greatness is not just only available to you, it's going to happen if you will make a commitment to grow. My good friend Mark Miller, who's going to join us here in a minute, Mark always says your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. I'll let him talk about that in just a few minutes, but I want you to think today, what are you doing to grow yourself? And do you have a set of bathroom scales, that mindset, that tape measure that is able to measure, this is where I was, this is where I want to be, and I'm actually making progress. You won't see it. It'll happen incrementally. It'll happen behind the scenes. But if you'll make a commitment to that, it'll be incredible. Today, we're talking about how great people grow. I think if we want to be great, we've got to understand that, as old Jim Collins said, good is the enemy of great. I think so many people get to a point where they feel like they're good. They feel like they're okay. They have a job. They're employed. They have a family. They're semi-happy. And yet they settle for a status quo life. And the best of the best, those who are chasing greatness, they really never settle. They are always reaching, always raising the bar, always trying to better themselves, maximize their life, steward their opportunity, and really go back to what we said a couple of weeks ago when we started talking about this topic. Greatness is not really about fame and notoriety and power and prestige and all those things. Greatness really is about understanding how to position yourself to serve others, to make the world a better place, to make other people great, to push others to the front of the line, those kind of things. So that's what we're talking about. How do you position yourself to be able to help others? Well, let me give you a few things to think about today. I do want you to ask yourself today, have you settled for good when great is available? And that's a good question to sort of, be a foundation for this conversation today. But I want you to ask yourself the question, where is there a gap between where I am and where I want to be? That would be an area where you would say, I really do want to grow in this area. So is there an area where you have a gap between where you are and where you want to be? You're coming home from the hospital mindset, a baby, and you look at what a fully mature person in any area, you pick it, would be, and you say, there's a gap right now. Maybe I need to learn to crawl and then walk, and then ultimately I can run in this area. I can be a fully mature leader in this situation. But I think it starts with identifying what that spot is. And then I would say this: I'm enjoying sitting outside. It's crazy. It's the first week of March here, and we're getting to sit outside. Beautiful day. And as I think about what's going on, I can hear, lawnmowers around, and there's blowers, and people are getting a little anxious about doing a little yard work and those kind of things. There's going to be some people thinking about, hey, I wonder if it's too early for me to plant my little garden. They're getting ready to do that. And I've got one of my daughters. You remember Rebecca was with us a few weeks ago, and she talked about her love for gardening, that kind of thing. I think this is a good metaphor, a good picture when it comes to growth. It's this idea of growing. And so let me give you a few things to think about as you think about growing yourself. I would first of all challenge you to make sure you are committed to growth and that you have fertile soil. Your heart is willing to grow. You are teachable. You are hungry to grow. You want to grow, and you understand the importance of it. Now, I mentioned a minute ago, my friend Mark Miller is going to join us here. Mark he's written a book called Great Leaders Grow. I highly recommend it. You can get it at leadeveryday.com, where we have all our resources. But Mark's book, one of the statements he makes in that book is that your capacity to grow determines your capacity to lead. And he has shared with me before that growth, or this learner mindset, was not something he was born with. It's something that he has had to develop. And I would say the same thing's true for me. I've had to push myself to want to be a learner in some areas, and I'm guessing the same thing's true for you. Mark's with us. Mark, I want you to share with us here this quote: "This capacity to grow determines capacity to lead." Where did that come from, and how has that mindset that really took place in you years ago, decades ago, as you share it, how has that propelled you in your career with Chick-fil-A?
Well, I first encountered the concept over 40 years ago. Now, my parents would tell you I encountered it about a decade too late because I was a lousy student. School just didn't fire me up. I guess looking back, you might say that I didn't really apply myself. My grades weren't bad. And so never got in trouble for being a poor student, but I really didn't invest myself fully. And when I moved into the workplace, my first real supervisor convinced me that the way the world worked, if you want more influence, if you want more opportunity, and you want more impact, you've got to grow. You've got to grow. And I made a decision. I said, oh, okay, is that how the world works? Then I'll commit to lifelong learning. Now, I was telling this story to someone a couple of years back, and they said, yeah, but lifelong learning is probably easy for you. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, it's probably one of your top strengths. Some of your listeners are probably familiar with strength finders, where there are 34 attributes that most of us can plug our strengths into one of those 34 buckets. And this person called me out and said, I bet it's one of your top 5. And I said, I'm not sure it's in the top 25. And they said, well, you act like a learner. And I said, yeah, I made that decision. And I've had to learn to learn.
That's great stuff. I am so glad that people like Mark have committed themselves to growing, and what a powerful mindset to have, this fertile environment that you just say, I want to grow, I want to get better, and then you incrementally take steps for 40 years, and here you are with a life that you could never have imagined when it comes to leadership acumen and some of those kind of things. It's almost like a bank account where you put compound interest going, it starts to add up. And so what would happen if you began to make yourself a person who says, I am going to increase my capacity to be great, honestly, to put myself in a situation where I'm going to grow and ultimately be able to help other people grow that way? Well, fertile soil is important. Having the right mindset, the right heart, the commitment to growth is important. But I think another thing that's important is making sure you put the right seeds in the ground. So if you want to have peppers, you can't plant corn. You've got to plant peppers. And the same thing is true for you. As you begin to identify places you want to grow, you got to put time on that area. So think about this. If you were saying, I want to work on my communication, or you need to work on your communication, that's where you are right now. You want to be a better communicator. You understand you have to communicate in your meetings. You have to cast vision for your team. you have to lead in your family, whatever it is, that communication piece is really important. But all the time you spend reading marketing books or taking marketing classes or talking to people about marketing, that's not necessarily going to help you be a better communicator. So you got to make sure the seeds match what it is that you're trying to plant and grow in your life. And so I would challenge you today, are there some places where you say, I really just haven't taken time to identify the right place and then try to find the resources to match what the need is. And so for some of you today, man, it'd be really great if you just take out a legal pad and say, okay, let me write down 3 or 4 areas where I need to grow and what's 1 or 2 things I can do in each area to help me grow. We'll give you some ideas in a minute. But before we do, I want to warn you of one other thing. When you start planning your growth garden, you start making this commitment to increase your capacity to grow, and you begin to match up the right seeds and start, commit to it. I want to warn you that you're going to need to watch the weeds. Watch the weeds. Anytime you have a garden, you're going to have weeds that are going to pop up in that garden. And weeds for a leader are things like distraction. There are going to be all kinds of things that are going to come at you. They're going to distract you. Social media, email, all kind of stuff is going to be it's going to bombard your inbox every day. And so distraction is going to be very real. Distraction can take on many forms. It can't even be in the form of people. I read yesterday, actually I was reading something that said that the average person who works in an office, you may or may not be in an office right now, but if you work in an office, you're interrupted about 8 times an hour. So about every 7 minutes, somebody's coming to the door, or somebody's, buzzing you or texting you. And those interruptions just add up. And those distractions make it really hard for us to get our work done. Think about your growth work. When you start trying to set aside time to grow, it is going to be very easy for you to be distracted by people and by email and all kind of, the details of your life. Complacency can be a weed in your life. I think sometimes we can underestimate just how satisfied we are with the status quo. Our complacency, it's just, we've said it before. We talked about it in our course. Complacency is the rival to greatness. It really is. Think about any team that is a dominant team, a dynasty kind of team. How do they stay on top? How do they keep chasing greatness when they get to a level where they're already better than everybody else? You got to understand, you're not competing against people. You're not competing against your competition. You're not competing against anything other than yourself. You got to look yourself in the mirror and say, am I doing my best? Am I being my best? Am I complacent? And if you get satisfied, it's a quick slope back to good from great. And so one of those weeds is complacency. Busyness is one. Your activity, that you fill up your calendar. We talk about all the time that activity and accomplishment are not the same thing. It's so easy for us to just be busy, to feel like a full schedule is important. And if you're going to commit yourself to grow, you need to understand that there's going to be all kinds of things that are going to get in your way. They're going to war against you. They're going to beat against you. And busyness is going to be one of those things that continues to show up. Television, social media. I mean, just fill in the blank. There's so many things, and you will have to make an intentional decision that you're going to grow if you're going to grow, because you're not going to hope your way into high performance, as we say. You're going to believe and behave your way there. And when it comes to behaving, it's got to be certain things, certain disciplines you're going to build in your life, habits that you're going to hold to. And so let me give you a few things to think about today as we talk about growing. Mark's going to jump back in here in just a second. He's got a couple things he can share with us I think will help us as well. But when I think about what I do to grow, one of the things that's most important in that process is people. Who are you around right now that is helping you grow? Who are you rubbing shoulders with that is helping you grow? Do you have somebody in your family? Do you have a friend? Do you have somebody who's challenging you? Somebody who's a little bit ahead of you? The older I get, the harder it is to find people that are ahead of me, that are older than me. I mean, I'm kind of getting up there, and yet I have some people ahead of me. They are more experienced than me. They're wiser than I am. They have disciplines and things in their lives. And when I watch them, when I get around them, Mark would be one of those people. When I get around those people, it is challenging me and pushing me to another level as I watch them. I I heard a while back that every person is the average of the 5 people they're closest to. So if you look at the people that are you're closest to, they will tell you a lot about yourself. You dress like they do. You probably talk like they do. You live in similar homes. You have similar incomes. I mean, there's so much that is true about this statement that we're the average of the 5 people we're closest to. When you think about the 5 people you're closest to, and you put the growth thermometer in their life, what would that temperature be? Are they red hot for growth, or are they just kind of mediocre, lukewarm? They don't even care about growth. I've been around people before, and they're like, I don't even really care about growing. I mean, somebody said this to me. They're like satisfied with where they are. That person is not somebody that I want to spend time with. I really don't want to be with people who don't want to get better and maximize their opportunity and use their influence to help others get better. And so think about the people closest to you there. That's really important. And more specifically, do you have somebody that could even be a formal mentor to you, or maybe just a short time informal mentor? Maybe you find somebody you'd say, you call her up, you say, I want to meet with you 3 times. Would you be willing to do that? Or maybe you're at a point where you need a coach. And if that's the case, reach out. We got all kind of coaching opportunities. But as I think about the people in my life, they have helped me I would not be close to where I am. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I was when I came home from the hospital either. I have made progress. And a lot of that progress has been because of the people that I've hung out with and I've had a chance to rub shoulders with. So Mark, you're with us here again. You have modeled this in such a great way. Anytime you have needed help on anything, it seems like you've got a coach for everything. And you reach out, you have people that have helped you in specific ways, formal ways for long periods of time. And then if you needed help with a project or something you were trying to do, something you're trying to learn, you'd reach out and just, hire somebody to help you with that. So talk about the power of having people around your life to help you grow. Will you share that with us?
Well, I think you'll see a pattern emerge if you're looking for it. The greats in any field of endeavor have coaches. The great athletes, the great musicians, the great thinkers. I even know great coaches who have coaches. Men and women who coach for a living that have coaches. The best CEOs have coaches. I think the value of a coach, we could probably talk for an hour about the value of a coach or a mentor or any of those other embodiments that you just mentioned. But I think if I were going to sum it up, they bring fresh eyes. It's so hard to be self-aware. Use the golf example. I have just recently hired a golf coach, and it's different than taking a golf lesson, right? Where they're going to give you some tips and techniques and maybe a gimmick and say, good luck, have a great life. This is a guy I'm going back to again and again, and he can see things that I cannot see. And only with that perspective do I have any chance of consistent improvement.
So here's my question for you. If you're listening today, who do you need to help you in an area that you've picked out? Maybe one of those areas you wrote down on that legal pad. Is there someone that comes to mind that you think could help you? Reach out to them and ask them, hey, would you be willing to meet with me and share with me, what are some things I can do to grow in this area, an area where they're really good, you're trying to get there. Maybe they're great and you're trying to get to great. So that people, really important. Here's another thing I would encourage you. I'll use the word courses. I don't know if courses is the right word, but let's use the word courses to represent education. And education can be formal, it can be informal. But when you think about growing, maybe there's an area where you say, I actually need a degree to be able to do what it is I want to do. Sometimes degrees are important, but sometimes degrees aren't really necessary. Sometimes we need to find an informal opportunity to learn, and it can be through a course. It can be through a podcast we listen to. It can be through a book we have. I mean, there's all kind of ways for us to informally learn. But when you start thinking about the courses that are available to you now, it's incredible how much knowledge is out there. And yet knowledge is not the goal. It's taking the knowledge and being able to apply it to our situation to move us from good more toward great. And so I want to just challenge you. If you don't have something you're doing to help you learn, you really are going to struggle to make progress. And so, are you really gonna get to the end of your life and go, I meant to grow? Please tell me that is not your strategy. We've got to make a decision as leaders that we're going to try to get better, because as we grow, go back to what Mark said, our capacity to grow is going to determine whether we have the capacity to lead. And people are depending on you. Your family's depending on you. Your coworkers are, your direct reports, your company, your constituents, your players, your students, fill in your blank. People are depending on you to lead at a high level. And so let's make sure that we use these educational opportunities we have, these courses we have. Now, what does that look like? You get to decide, but here's what I would tell you. Unless you have a commitment to building time into your schedule each week, each month, each year, however you want to look at it, it's not going to just happen. I'll give you an example from my life. So this year, I am taking 1 hour per week minimum, and I'm going to spend 50 hours learning from Masterclass. So you're probably familiar with Masterclass, all kind of people. And specifically, I'm spending an hour every week learning about writing this year. And so that's just one of the things I'm doing. It's a little subscription I have access to, and so I am trying to formally learn, and I have time set aside every Monday. I'm spending an hour each week, and I literally have it written down in my plan. Like, I'm going to spend an hour a week doing this. That's not what you need to do. You need to do something different probably, but it might be what you need to do. But you got to have some time and say, I'm going to spend time every week trying to learn it. I would call that an informal way, but it's kind of formal. I mean, I have a subscription and I have access to it. I'm spending time. It's on my calendar. And so I think it's important for you to decide, like, this is when I'm going to do this. And then that appointment is not subject to distraction, busyness, all that stuff. Or it is subject to it, but I'm saying no to all that stuff. The phone doesn't come with me. I am going to that time, and I'm going to be locked in during that time. I'm going to see what I can get. I'm going to write some things down. I'm taking notes, and I'm downloading the PDFs, and I'm like, how can I become a better writer? And, I've been writing for a long time. It's not that I'm not a good writer now. I mean, I can write. I mean, some of you read the books, and they're okay. They're hopefully won't put you to sleep. But if I'm going to maximize my opportunity, I really want to be better at what I'm doing. I don't even know if great is the goal. It's just how good can I be? And so I'm trying to work on that. And I've been writing for a long time. I'm working on it right now, trying to get better. So how about you? Do you have an area where you want to get better, and do you have a formal way or an informal way that you're pursuing progress there? One other thing I would say you can do is, or a couple other things here. I want to give you one more, and I'm going to talk about it. Actually, we're going to do a whole episode next week on the power of reading. I think one of the things we can do to grow is we can read. And so I want to challenge you to make sure you have some time set aside each week to read. But again, I'm going to spend a whole show on this next week, and I got some books I'm going to share with you. It'll be pretty cool. So tune back in next week for that. But the last thing I want to tell you, or just remind, there's all kind of ways you can grow. But here's one more thing that I think is pretty eye-opening. It just opens your mind and heart when you travel, when you go places. And so I would say places. People are important. Having courses and books and those kind of things are important. But places also can be really powerful when it comes to our personal growth. Now let's think about travel for a second. You don't have to go to China, or you don't have to go to Africa, or you don't have to go to Europe. You don't have to go to Tennessee or Topeka, Kansas. That's not necessarily what I mean when I say places. Those things are important, and I would schedule a trip every 90 days, schedule a trip to go somewhere. But you know what? You can actually intentionally think, I need to know how to do customer service. Let's say that's your thing. And you can pick out the best customer service place in your city or in your town. And you can take your legal pad and you can go and sit down in their lobby or sit at a table in their restaurant or wherever you go, and just make a list of what you see. What is it that they do at a level that you wish your people would do, or your organization would do? And if you'll maybe even take a couple people from your team and go and sit, have a meal together, make notes about what it is they're doing and what you could learn from them. I was over in Pensacola just a few weeks ago. I did an event down there, and I Yelped the best taco place in town. And this was crazy. I found out that Pensacola has the #2, I think this is the #2 street taco place in the U.S. It's like crazy. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to go check this out. I mean, I don't know, what was it? Over 1,000 reviews, and they were all 5 stars. Then, I mean, like nothing below 5. And I'm thinking, this is crazy. And so maybe we can put a link to this place in the show notes. If anybody's in Pensacola, you got to go check this place out. I don't even remember the name of it, but I do remember the tacos. I go to this place. There's a gas station. Behind the gas station, there's a trailer, and people are lined up at this trailer. I mean, there's 25 people lined up on a what was it? A Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and this place is packed. And by the way, there's a pandemic going on. Remember that? It's just like crazy. It's unreal what's going on. So I eat. I get the tacos. I take them back to my hotel. I had a great dinner, and they were so good that the next night when I finished, I went back to the taco place. So I did double duty there. But there were some things I watched them do, and the way they treated people. The food was great, but the way they treated people, their speed of service, the taste of the food, there's so many things there that I'm going, this place was unbelievable. And if I was in the restaurant business, I'd want to have my team there to learn from these people. And so that'd just be one example. If you have an area in your life where you're saying, maybe you're a communicator and you're a speaker. We have people that write, and you're a creator of some kind. You lead a business. Think of the best business leader in your town. Who's the best salesperson? Who's the best marketer you know? Go sit down with them, have a conversation with them. Go travel to their turf and watch the way they do things. And all of a sudden, you can expand your thinking just by getting around new places, going and seeing things. If you do get to go to Italy, that's great. Go to the art museums, do those things. You'll be inspired. But you don't have to go to Italy to get better. You can go across town sometimes, and the next thing you know, you're thinking at a new level. You might even visit an industry that is not the same as yours, but they do something really well, and you think, man, they execute at a high level, and maybe there's a great high school team in your area. The way they execute is legendary, and your team is in manufacturing, and you're thinking, what can we learn? Take your team to a basketball game. Take your team to a girls soccer game or whatever, and watch the way they work together. And all of a sudden there's some things you can learn. So going to places is powerful. So Mark, before I let you go, if you had one word to someone who's chasing greatness about this idea of growth and the power of growth, what would be your final word to? What would be your word of challenge to someone who really does want to be great?
Great leaders serve. The most important question I think any leader will ever ask themselves is the one you can ask every day when you look in the mirror. Am I a serving leader or a self-serving leader? Because we can go through the motions. We can actually technically have the skills and execute those skills. But if our heart's not right, nobody cares about our skills. And when our heart is truly oriented to serve others, that's what will drive you to grow. I want to grow so I can serve better. I want to grow so I can have more influence and impact and opportunity to serve. And so I think you just got to keep a vigilance on your own heart and your own motives. And if you're trying to learn so that you can serve, if you're trying to grow so that you can serve, if you're trying to cast vision so you can serve, if you're trying to hold people accountable so you can serve, if you're trying to build teams so that you can serve, you're on the path to greatness.
All right. So just set some great stuff there. What a great challenge. I want to leave you with a challenge today as well. So I want you to think about your upcoming year. And what would it look like for you to make an investment in yourself? And I'm going to give you a specific way to do that today. I want to challenge you to invest 1% of your income this year in your own personal growth. You're like, oh my goodness, you're crazy. 1%? Yeah. If you make $50,000 this year, let's just pick a round number. I want to challenge you to take $500 and invest it in your growth this year. If you make 100,000, take 1,000. If you make $1 million, take 10,000. I think that's 1%, right? $10,000. You whatever it is, take it 1% of your income. And here's my predictor for you. If you will take 1% of your income and invest it in your personal growth, books, conferences, a coach, mentor, places that you travel, but specifically targeted at helping you grow. If you will take 1% of your income, I'm predicting that your income a year from now will go up by 10%. I'm crazy enough to believe that if you'll take 1% and invest in yourself and your own personal growth, you will be so much more employable, so much more enjoyable to the people around you, and you will be able to leverage your influence like never before if you would just get on a specific, strategic path of growth. Make sure the soil is fertile, make a commitment to growing yourself, get seeds that are relevant to what it is you're trying to do, water those seeds, take care of that garden, keep the weeds out, and watch what will happen. You will be on your way to greatness if you will make a commitment to grow. Great leaders grow.